This episode was sponsored by MPB, the world's largest online platform for used photo and video kit. Visit mpb.com. Hey folks, in this episode, it's all about headshot photography and NFTs with a good friend of mine, Mr. Peter Hurley out of New York City. This is TWiP.
Sorry.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of This Week of Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Today, I get to sit down with a longtime friend of mine. I haven't talked to this guy in years and years, but every time I see him, for some reason, he gets better looking. I don't know what he's eating, what he's drinking. Peter Hurley, man, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Frederick. That's quite an intro. I got to keep it up, man.
You gotta keep jogging and drinking that green stuff, right? Keep healthy. How are you doing? You know, before we dive into the interview, how the heck are you doing? You know, you're out in New York City, you're crushing it. Everything good, copacetic, positive?
Everything's awesome. I mean, I think, people always ask me because when this whole thing started, New York was like the epicenter. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, we're back. You know, things are happening. Obviously, I think whatever our new normal is, people are getting used to that, and business is booming. I mean, I have headshot photographers around the country that are making more, and they made more in 2021 than they ever made any other year. So we're flying into 2022, and that to me is super exciting.
Yeah, I know. I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to talk to you, because the headshot photography genre, I think in a lot of ways, for a lot of photographers, it becomes overlooked. I mean, it's like, yeah, headshot, I'm going to go bang one out on the corner real quick with my 85 1.2 or whatever and be done with it. You have elevated the headshot photography to something else. You built a whole business and a movement almost around it with the headshot crew that you put together. Talk about that a little bit. Let's start, before you talk about the headshot crew, talk a little bit about just the genre of headshot photography and maybe explain that it's a little bit deeper than some people may think.
Well, you know, it's amazing to me. I do these workshops called the Headshot Intensive, and I put these ads out on Facebook so people find out about them. And somebody said 2 days to learn how to take a headshot, and in a comment. And I was like, it's taken me 22 years now, and I still haven't mastered headshot photography. So, there is a lot more to it than what people think. I think once you get somebody and you point a camera in their general direction and you're close to them and they got to look down the barrel of the lens, there's a lot that goes on there. And especially whenever somebody's in front of a camera, they change. Yeah. And our job as a photographer is to see that change and change them back to what they may have been as before the camera wasn't there. Yeah. And I call it camera invisibility. I want to capture a human being reactive to me and creating these subconsciously driven expressions that would come out of them as if the camera wasn't there. And that's what I'm trying to do. I remember years ago, my first talk ever was the Google Plus photography conference. I don't know if you remember that one. I think it was 2012, right? And and Scott Kelby invited me to speak. I'd never spoken. I got up on stage. I was nervous as hell. But during that conference, I did this talk, and it's still online. You could see me freaking out for sure. But during that conference, Sergey Brin had his Google glasses on, and he came into the speaker lounge, and I was sitting there, and I said, "Wow, those glasses are pretty cool." And I was like, and it was pretty freaking cool to meet that guy. So he said, "Here, look right here," and I point like this, and I go, "There?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he said, "I just took a picture of you." I was like, "What?" And I was like, he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I get it?" And he said, "Well, there's only 5 email addresses in these glasses, and yours isn't one of them." I was like, all right. Anyway, later he gave me the shot. But after that shot, I said to him, is there any way, I believe that people need headshots these days. I think profile pictures are obviously very important. And if you don't have a good one, it's silly because there's specialists out there that could take care of you. Yep. But I said, when people look into a camera, they get weird. I said, what if I could get them to look me in the eye and I could just take a picture? Is there any way to create a contact lens with a camera on it and we could take that picture? And he looks at me and he goes, "Not right now." And I was like,
Maybe
"But
in Black Mirror.
yeah, but now it's 2022, and that was 10 years ago. And Google is creating cameras on contact lenses, from what I'm heard. So I
Oh
don't know if it
wow.
was my conversation with him that started that in his brain, but I've heard that stuff is going to. And imagine that. Come on. Of course, there's going to be cameras on contact lenses down the road. I would think
Yeah.
something like that.
I mean,
Um,
if they figure out how to replace the eyeball with a camera or something, I'm sure there'll be a certain segment of people that'll be like, yeah, yeah. I mean, all medical reasons notwithstanding, but people are just like, yeah, I want to be able to see better. I want to, be able to not see if I don't want to, and just be able to control everything and spectrums and all that. Yeah, yeah,
wow, think
and
about
then
that.
notwithstanding the eye contact thing, right? Imagine being you and I being able to do this interview in person and just talk, right, eye to eye, man to man, just have a conversation, not worry about, okay, I gotta keep eye contact with the lens and is the computer recording and all that, just to talk and then share that conversation. That yeah, I think that would be amazing. Peter, when you look at headshot photography, what percentage would you say technical versus let's call it psychological? Like you were saying, people change when they get in front of the camera. Is it 90% the photographer's ability to elicit the expression, put the subject at ease, and 10% f-stop, shutter speeds, lighting, Rembrandt, all that stuff? Or is it more balanced? What do you think?
You know what? I get this a lot. Here's my answer. It's easier for me to teach technical than it is to teach people skills.
Yeah.
So and in my work, I'm going for shots that another photographer would have a hard time capturing, and that's based on drawing personality and expression out of the human. So if somebody's got the people skills, I have a recipe that works that I could teach them technically, and they can be off to the races.
Yeah.
But if they're super technical and have no people skills, they're probably going to be better off with working with people that either are models who are used to posing, that they don't have to direct. I really think direction is the final ingredient in portraiture in general, and for headshots it's amplified because you're close to your subject. The subject's supposed to make eye contact with the camera. There's a lot of variables there. When people get vacant looking in their expression and they look into a camera, they don't look like they can, they don't have any thought process in their head, and that's what I try to create and try to teach. So I would say for me, it's more important to have the people skills and get the person chill. But if you have shitty lighting, then you're not helping that person anyway. And there's no way the person, if you actually show the image and you've got it lit poorly, and then the person, you're trying to build confidence in the person that you're photographing. So I use tethering to do that. Humans have the capacity to learn. I shoot really good lighting. I know that people haven't been in the light that I create in the course of their lives generally, unless they've shot with somebody that's really fantastic. So the bar to me is low. All I have to do is get them to behave like themselves, and I've captured something. And that's what I coach photographers towards and teach them. And it's a recipe that works, so it's a recipe I teach.
Yeah. Do you think the introverted photographer that wants to build a business around doing, headshots or profile photos for Facebook, other social media, which could be a huge business. If they want to dive into that genre, yet they're introverted, are they doomed? Should they pick another thing? Should they, how do you advise those people that want to get into it but can't, keep a conversation or have the outgoing personality?
The camera gives people a lot of power. I've seen it happen. You have to rely on your camera to give you that confidence that you need. You get behind a camera, it's juice. You've got that person. I've shot my goal. I don't know. I got into shooting successful entrepreneurs and billionaires and stuff. And I want to shoot like 100 billionaires. And I don't know how many I've shot, maybe 15 or something. Nice. But every time I shoot these people, they got a lot going on. They got a lot in their brain. They're really smart. They're very high flying individuals. The camera stops them every time. Like, use the camera as your power. It's really a ridiculously powerful thing. And you have to understand that if you desire this, how much of a fire under your butt do you have to do it? Like, you've got to get that introvert and figure out in your own way how to allow those images to how you're going to create those images in your own way. Like I'm obviously not introverted at all, but people say that they do see me at times where I kind of get, I mean, it's strange for me for people to think that I'm introverted in any way, shape, or form because I'm so out there.
Yeah.
But on occasion, I guess, I mean, there are certain instances where I might be considered an ambivert, where I maybe go either way. But I coach people and I tell them, look, you don't have to be me. I'm going to coach my way because that's the only way I can coach. But you don't have to be me. You have to understand that my level of energy when I get a shot and I yell shebang, if you guys have ever heard me yell shebang, it's because I get a good picture. I get excited and I yell shebang. There, an introvert might just go from like taking a good picture, and instead of yelling at the top of their lungs something like the shebang, they might just go, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
get the person excited,
Yeah.
you know. Gregory, there's a quote out there. I have guests on the Headshot crew, and we have something called Crash in the Crew. I'd love for you to crash the crew one day, by the way, if you do that for me.
I crash the crew.
There is a Gregory Heisler Crash the Crew, and there's a quote that you may have heard other people say, but he said it, and I was like so into it. And he said, as photographers, we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think introverts kind of go through life like that. Like if you're going to be successful as an introvert and you're going to put yourself out there to shoot and photograph people, then you're going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and you just live with it and figure it out. Because if you love this medium of photography, that's it.
It's almost like being on stage though, right? Do you see it like that a little bit? Like a performance art where not like you're performing to entertain your subject, but do you feel like when you get behind the camera, you slip into a different persona? Like, you know, I am the cool photographer. You're trusting me with your image, and I have to be a little bit loud and flamboyant and, you know, all that stuff to make the subject feel like, okay, this guy is kind of sliding into that stereotypical photographer persona. Therefore, I feel comfortable. Or is it just be yourself? What do you think?
I mean, over the course of my career, it's changed. So I went to that guy and would always, I used to have a routine, and it was soup to nuts. It was start to finish. I did the same thing with everybody. Everybody who came in, I did the same thing. Like I had a whole thing, what I said, what I did, different things I tried, all of that. And I scripted it, and I scripted it out. I had the script. And that was for actors, because I was shooting actors all the time. Then a CEO walked in, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, whoa, what do I do now? Yeah. And I had to figure out I had to reinvent my former direction. And then I found this thing that I do called misdirection, which was phenomenal. And that changed everything. But now what I found was I coined it the chameleon approach. Basically, you have to be a chameleon for the individual that comes in. So if I want the best out of my subject and I want to get something special for them, it sounds a little hocus pocusy, but I read energy and kind of profile them and figure out what they're doing before they get anywhere near my camera. And then my brain kicks in a way for me to get exactly what I need out of them through the words I use, the mannerisms I use, how I direct them. It's all geared on what they need. So a good example is somebody comes in petrified and they're really freaked out. My whole energy goes down. And I just talk slow, and I just start going, hey, we're going to do great. Hey, come on in, hang up your clothes. Let's get going. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not going to be able to handle Big Peter. And then if somebody comes in and they're all fired up, oh, I heard you're the best. We're going to get this. And I'm going to be like, yeah, heck yeah, we're going to get this. Get your ass in front of my camera. Let's go.
Nice.
You know, and I change, and then I read how the human being see everything. It's almost like everything comes to our face. You see the concern for their well-being on their face. I say to them, you know, stop looking concerned for your well-being, because that's what I'm picking up. The coolest thing that I've learned since I've been shooting that I tell my clients is the brain will try to tell you what your face looks like, but it doesn't know. Yeah. Our brain tries to tell ourselves what our face. Everybody listen to this right now. If you're looking at anything, I doubt you're looking at yourself. I kind of am, because I see myself in front of the camera. But so that's the only time I might know what my face looks like. But you don't. I'm looking at my eyes. I see like a little outline of my nose and my cheeks, and that's about it. We don't know what our face looks like. So our brain tells us what our face looks like, and it's wrong. It's super wrong. Like, because otherwise nobody would ever look in the camera the way they do. So the photographer has to become the coach. And it's all based on levels of persuasion. You're trying to persuade the person to do what you feel is correct for them and their personal brand, while they're fighting against you to do it because they don't know that you know better than their own brain. So it's this dichotomy between the two things that's just crazy to think about, when I'm just trying to get the best out of them. And if they listen to me, they'll do it, like with the squinching and the jawline and all this crazy stuff that they won't do unless I convince them and persuade them to do it. So it's all levels of everything that I coach and that I teach and that I do is levels of persuasion. And then you have to cater it to the personality that's in front of you. And to do that, honestly, it takes time.
Yeah.
I think I've photographed maybe 40,000 faces in front of me. I'm guessing, but I know I got to be over 30 or 40. I don't know where I am. But
that persuasion piece of it, would you agree the persuasion is I don't want to use percentages, but that's part of the equation. The other half is that persuasion has to lead to trust from your subject. Because if your subject, and arguably if you're Peter Hurley and your subject's coming in and you're like, oh, I'm being shot by Peter Hurley, of course I trust him. 40,000, 30,000 shots in, he better know what he's doing. But if it's a regular no-name person off the street, and maybe they've seen your portfolio, maybe they haven't, it's harder for them to elicit that, okay, this guy knows what they're doing. They're not going to make me look like an idiot. They know better than I do about my facial expressions. How does that unknown person or lesser known person get to that level of trust quickly, in the hour or 30 minutes you have with your subject?
You wouldn't believe how many people didn't get the memo when they come in my studio and they didn't hear I was the best at this on the planet. I'm like, what the heck? They're not listening to me. No, I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm like, do you realize like the amount of there's something about Picasso where somebody asked him to do a drawing and he drew it and he handed it to him and he said, that's $30,000 or whatever, $300,000 or whatever he was. And they go, that took you like 3 minutes. And he goes, yeah, it took a lifetime to be able to do that in 3 minutes. It's like, it's like that. It's like, I've been working at this for so long. And when people come in my studio and they don't give me the respect that I believe I deserve, it becomes a whole, build of gaining that trust in them through being an expert. So you have to be an expert. I coached photographers on how to be an expert. I tell photographers, look, I'm going to coach all the stuff I know. You claim it as your own. I'm coaching you so that you can use these techniques to gain that trust, because the more confident you are behind the camera, the more that trust is going to happen sooner from your subject, and you're going to get better pictures. Confidence is contagious. So if a photographer's confidence behind the lens, even if you're quiet and reserved and an introvert, but confident, it oozes off on your subject, and it's going to get to them, and they're going to change, and they're going to be like in the palm of your hands. A lot of things, I look over the course of my career and I see how things change now. I can get people a good headshot in the first. I actually don't I don't press the shutter anymore until I see something I really love, and I wait. And the first shot I take of people, I would say 9 times out of 10 is the best headshot they've ever had in their life. Wow. Because I wait until I see what I want. I coach them until I see what I want. And if I don't see what I want, we're going to be there. It's going to be a really long shoot because I don't press the button. I just don't.
So it's not that flow. It's not that flow. Again, back to that stereotypical photographer. It's not that flow of, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Look to the left a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Now purse your lips. Okay. Now squinch. Yeah. Click, 100 frames a second, whatever. You're not doing that. Are you doing more of the medium format, large format kind of flow where it's like everything is perfect? Okay. We're ready. Look at the birdie. Click. Where do you fall in that?
A little bit of both. It's a hodgepodge of both. It really is dependent upon the subject, what they're giving me. I do shoot fast when the person's hit ratio is high. So by hit ratio, I mean they've got a good look. The angles of their face are phenomenal. They already appear confident. I don't have to have them squinching. Anything like asking them to squinch or get their jawline out. The things that I do, holding the sub, like the techniques I use are posing. And posing is inauthentic. I hate the word pose. I like to say loose positioning. So I want to get to the point where I don't have to tell them that stuff, and we're flying and stuff's coming at me. So when stuff comes at me naturally from them, I'm shooting faster. If there's nothing there, I'm not shooting at all. Photographers have one trick. A lot of photographers are one trick ponies, and they use positive reinforcement as their only means of direction. So it's that turn this way, turn that way, click, beautiful, amazing, that was perfect.
Yes.
Now turn that way, click, yes, that was great, do that again. It's just positive. They don't really give them any juice or anything to respond to. And if the person is flat and doesn't respond, it's gonna be a long shoot, and it's gonna be a lot of shots that have that deadpan look that doesn't fly when you're trying to pull an illicit expression out of people.
Yeah, and this is like this discussion is an example of, like we talked about at the top. There's a lot more to a headshot than put somebody in shade and open up your aperture and start clicking, right? There's a lot more to it. You built a business around this called Peter Hurley's Headshot Crew. Talk about that a little bit. What is that model? How does that operate?
So years ago, my web designer designed peterhurley.com. I started shooting. I had blinders on. I never looked at it. I never knew what was going on around me. I just wanted to create. And I was looking at the competition in New York City, and I created a really clean, simple recipe for my work. And it worked out really well. And then the Fstoppers reached out to me, and they said, we want to interview you. They interviewed me. They're like, look, nobody's done a tutorial in headshots that has your experience. Let's do it. And I did their first tutorial. And simultaneously with that, I talked to my web developer, and he's like, why don't we make a website with like a forum where, like a community where photographers can talk. And I was like, that'd be really cool. And I said, so I was like, let's do it. So he created it. We launched it in 2011. So it's now 10 years old. It was 10 years old in December is when we launched it, December 2011. So we're just 10 years old. And it's grown to 20,000 photographers. There's about 19,000, I think, on the site. There's 1,500 in my coaching group. I launched it simultaneously as I was launching the Headshot Intensive, which is my signature workshop. So people go through the workshop, and then they go into the Headshot Crew. And then the Headshot Crew is a referral engine for photographers to get work. So if you see there, you can hit find a photographer, and it's going to search for photographers in my network. And yeah, there's 18,975 from 137 countries. Look at that. So type in any city, anywhere, and then see who comes up. And we'll have a group. Oh, look at this. He's going San Francisco.
Here we see.
And
let's
my
see.
associates will come up first. So you got Caraminder, Dennis, and Tony. And then you've got other photographers that are in my coaching program, which would be like Ida, who I overviewed too. Stephanie's taking the Headshot Intensive. Ida took the Headshot Intensive. Daniel St. Louis, Alan Ortiz, David Sachs. Stan's been to Headshot Mania with me. Diane Morton does a lot of my workshops and stuff like that. And Nina's working with me as well. Dean's also working with me.
So then this becomes a directory then. So once you go through the training, you end up in this directory, and ordinary people can come here and search for you and book you. Is that fair?
And there's also a portion of it of people that don't get trained that still are in the search that's a lower level called silver, but gold and up is the training, and the gold members show up above the silver members. But yeah, it's just awesome because I teach the recipe. We also teach business and how to get the business started and how to make money. And I actually have what I call my 100K club, which my goal when I started headshot photography was to get myself to $100,000 a year. And I was really excited about that when I hit that number. And for me to be able to, I started from scratch. I'm self-taught. I had the same thing most people have when they want to become an artist parental from a parental standpoint, parents saying, no, 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 you got to go get a real job. And so for me to be successful at this, the 100K mark was like something that I really, really valued. So last year in 2021, we had more photographers on the headshot crew jump over the $100,000 mark due to my coaching than ever before, which
Wow.
means the world to me. So, and I'm
What does
trying
that
to.
mean, Peter? What does that mean What does that mean in terms of the number or the number of headshots that a person needs to shoot during a year in order to get to the 100K mark? Obviously, it's going to vary by region and all that somewhat, but generally speaking, how many people do I have to shoot in order to get to 100K?
It depends on your sales method. So we do a training called the Tnt Method for sales.
Mm-hmm.
It was developed by one of my photographers. His name's Tony TWiP, and I started using it. And I'm transparent in my fees and my structure and my everything. If you go to peterhurley.com/rates, you could see how I do it. But I charge $1,500 to step in front of my camera, and you don't get an image. It's $300 an image as of this recording. I do tweak my pricing all the time, and who knows where it's going to go. But generally, if somebody's spending $1,500 to come in my door, they're going to buy, I'd say I average probably like 8 images maybe during a session, 5 to 10, somewhere in there. Sometimes I just sold 14 the other day.
Wow.
So let's say that's 3. Let's just say for the sake of this, they buy 5. That's a $3,000 session for me. And I only do 1 a day these days. I used to do 3 a day, which was crazy back in the day. Now I only do 1 a day. So everybody's different. Everybody's market's different. But to make 100K, if I'm doing 3, obviously, and I'm at the top of the game. So most of my photographers charge we're doing a model where we say, create a session fee. It's about, let's say, just say any market in the US can pretty much handle this, I think, where you have to be good and you have to have a portfolio, but $200 to walk in your door and $200 an image. So for $400 you walk in the door, you get 1 headshot. I think that's a decent starting ground. So if they sell 5 images, they made $1,200. And I think a lot of my photographers on the headshot crew are doing that. Some are doing it less. Some are doing $100 to walk in and $100 an image, which what I'm trying to do is create a baseline for associates in the crew around $200. That if they've gone through my training and they've gotten this accolade from me, then they could probably charge more. But even if you do 100 and 100, it's $100 to walk in. You sell 5 images. You just made $600 off of it, and that's pretty damn good. I think that's pretty cool.
No, that is. And then, but the other side of that is some people that are listening or watching this are thinking, yeah, that's great, but he's saying I'm going to charge X dollars to walk in the door. What if I don't have a door? What if I'm living in a studio apartment in New York City, but I want to be a headshot photographer? Am I doomed? Do I have to rent a studio and have that overhead? Can I just do it outside? I know you started in your living room with window light. How did you
speaking my language? I started natural light in a studio apartment in New York City, so I have no, anybody who says that, I'm just like, I have no sympathy if you don't think you could do it. Yeah. Plus, headshot crew members can rent my studio for it's $100 an hour with a 200-minute. So for $200, you get my lights. You walk in my studio and you shoot up a storm. You just book a bunch of people in 2 hours or whatever, and you're making a ton of money. So, and I do that in my Burbank studio as well. So it's not there. It's not really an excuse. A lot of people have excuses that they're in like a small town and there's not. I was like, there's plenty of people in that town, I'm sure, that need headshots. And if you're talented, how far is the next big town from you? Like, do you have to drive an hour and then maybe you rent a space there? Like, or, how much would it be to talk to other photographers in that town and say, hey, can I rent your space for a couple hours to do headshots? I'm sure that wouldn't be difficult. Or you find right now I'm in a kind of work sharing, like, space. I was in the conference room. It's like a WeWork, but it's in Tampa, but it's not WeWork. It's a totally different thing. But I was in the conference room today, and it was perfect. I'm actually shooting in here on Wednesday, and there's a white wall that I'm setting up against, and it's perfect. So all of those excuses, are, to me, are excuses. And if you really want this, if you love photography, I just think headshots, anybody who photographs people, if you consider yourself a portrait photographer and you don't have a headshot component to your work, it's just silly this day and age. And I can teach you how, which is even sillier. I'll show you, I'll give you an entire recipe, plop it in front of you. I have a 24/7 Zoom room that's running right now that runs all the time, where the headshot crew, there's 1,500 members, where there's always members in there supporting each other, coaching each other, answering questions, setting up lighting and shooting while coaching through the process for the people that need the help to get the recipe that I've created done for them. And then people say, well, why do you want to copy Peter Hurley? You want to copy me because, well, first of all, how many photographers out there go around, hey, I want to be copied? Like, I want to be copied because I have a company called Headshot Booker, and we have global companies, and we're doing jobs in I need shooters. I did a job recently for a company where I needed somebody in Moscow, I need somebody in London, I needed somebody in Chicago, I needed somebody, where else were we? San Francisco, obviously New York, the companies wherever they're based, and we shot it all headshot crew style, and we matched across the board. So I think it's a recipe that works. If it could be done better, I'd be doing it. If somebody can show me how to do it better, I will change to that. Right now, this is the best.
And then for people, if they want to go check that out, they should just, what is it? The headshotcrew.com, right? If they want to jump into that program. Yeah, let me show that on the screen. That's the site right here. Very cool. Very cool. All right, I want to switch gears. I know you're working on a bunch of projects. So you mentioned 6 companies that you're working with right now. You got a lot going on. The one thing that I'm really interested to hear from you about is the NFT project that you're working on. So I want to transition to that in just a second. Before we do that, I know I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about squinching. You talk about Shabang, right? And that's kind of your emerald, whatever okay, I got the shot, I love it, right? Yeah. So, but squinching, for the folks that are listening to this, are Peter Hurley fans, they already know the story. But for folks that aren't, talk about squinching and where that came from.
So when I remember when I modeled, I was modeling, and I would talk to other models about how do you look better in front of a camera, and we never really pinpointed it, and it would be like, gaze off into the distance and think about something cool, and your face will. I was like, I don't understand that. I don't know how to look cool. I just did it. I guess I learned as I go. I got more comfortable in front of the camera, and then I looked cooler. So when I picked up a camera, I went, well, I remember those photographers that didn't coach me, never gave me anything, and what do I tell my subjects? So then I was like, I don't like when you put up a camera in front of people, most people open their eyes, and I don't like wide-eyed shots because they look scared, like the people look scared. So when I started headshot photography and started photographing models and stuff in New York City, I would I was like telling them to squint. I was like, can you squint a little bit? And then I opened up all the ads for headshot photographers, and all the actors were wide-eyed. And then I looked at actors like in Vanity Fair that were shot by like Bruce Weber and Annie Leibovitz and Steven Meisel and like Herb Ritts and stuff, and they all look cool. And I was like, why do these people look cool, and the actors that need the headshots look so out to lunch? I was like, I'm going to stop that. So I made everybody squint. I didn't know it was not squinting that I wanted. I just wanted the eyes wider from when they open them at first, from being uncertain, deer in the headlights when they open their eyes. So years later, I actually have a video of myself in 2012, and I haven't come up with the word squint yet because I talk about squinting and I do this stuff with my face. And one day my daughter said squinch, and I was like, oh, that's good. And then I was like, wait, I have to define this. What is this? And I was like, squinching is narrowing the distance between your pupil and your lower eyelid. So it's lower eyelids up. It's not squinting. Squinting is protection of the eye. So that's like if you're in a snowstorm and you're like closing your eyes for protection. That's not what you want to do with the squinch. The squinch is a lower lid up thing. and people do it naturally as we speak. When we're confident, we just do it. When we get in front of cameras, we're not confident and we're unsure, so our eyes widen because we're thinking about our face, and that triggers the eyes opening because we're uncertain. So all I was trying to do was rectify that by giving them something to do, which I coined the Squinch, and then I trademarked it. And then I put out a video on it, and they put me on Good Morning America, and they came to my studio on Good Morning America, and we did it. And it was awesome. And now I don't even like a lot of my photographers send that video out to their people before they come in and shoot. And I don't want to do anything like that. Like, I want the person to walk in my studio as their natural selves, and I'm watching them before they get in front of the camera. And if they get in front of the camera and their eyes don't widen, I don't even tell them to squinch. Like, I don't need them squinch. I need them to look confident, whatever that is. And I went from being a photographer photographing faces to becoming a facial conveyance strategist, where I am strategizing on what their face needs to say that's best for their personal brand and getting my subject there. So if it requires a squinch, they're going to squinch. If it doesn't, they're not going to. It doesn't matter to me. But 9 times out of 10, somebody will get in front of your camera and they'll just give you one of these. And it's like, why are you doing that? Stop doing it. Don't look scared.
Right.
And you've got to reverse that somehow. So squinching is the way.
And they're like, I mean, a lot of it is people trying not to blink, because I'm a blinker. My brain somehow knows when that strobe is going to fire a millisecond before it fires, and my eyes are closed 90% of the time. So a lot of me doing that is just like, okay, I got to try not to blink. Don't blink. Don't blink. You like a glaucoma test or something.
Yep, and your eyes are too wide.
Yeah. So you start looking like a deer in the headlights. Do you shoot strobe, or are you shooting continuous lighting? Because continuous lighting would solve that for me. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I designed the Peter Hurley Cineflex kit from Westcott is my weapon of choice when I'm shooting headshots. So it's continuous light, it's LED panels. It was the thing that I needed. I don't like strobes going off in my subjects' faces for a number of reasons. I think there's a disconnect between me and the subject when that happens. Yeah. I also like the pupils. I like real estate in the eye to be the iris, not the pupil. So when you shoot a strobe, a lot of times you get what I consider big pupil syndrome. And I feel like somebody with vibrant blue eyes, you need to show as much as possible, and you need as much real estate as possible. So I bombard them with constant light to get the pupil down. And then there's no disconnect between the strobe going off. So plus I have more control because I could see what I'm doing. I'm self-taught, so I'm not that sharp when it comes to setting up a strobe and then seeing where all the light goes. I like to see where the light goes as I'm creating. Yep. I still use strobes. I do shoot strobe, but for certain situations, like if I need to do full body head to toe, or if I have shooting somebody and they're moving around a lot, I'll freeze it with strobe, or I want a particular look, I'll use strobe. But 90% of the time I'm using my flex kit in the studio.
Love it.
Sure.
All right, I want to wrap this up with you are always forward looking, right? And this NFT thing that people are either loving, hating, or on the sidelines or in the game with is kind of on fire. It was on fire last year before, and it doesn't seem to be stopping now. You're jumping in to the NFT space. What are you doing there?
This is amazing. I mean, I started to hear this NFT. I think the first time I heard of it, I was like everybody else. What the heck is that? And why is Gary Vee just squawking about it so much? And I was like, I gotta listen to that guy. I like listening to Gary, so I wanted to listen to him. And then another guy I listened to, Tom Bilyeu, who actually one of my friends, I guess I would say, and clients. I went in and I wanted to get him in front of my camera, so I ended up photographing him. And I just started following him and listening to what he said. And he was so they were so into the NFT thing that I was really starting to take a look, but not understanding it at all. I had recently, not too long ago, got into crypto and was investing a little bit here and there. So I was trying to learn more and more about it, absorb it as much as I can. And probably like many people out there, they're like, NFT, what? Non-fungible, what? And it wasn't long before one of my photographers, Vadim, who's in Tampa, where I am right now, came to me and said, "Hey, we got to do a project. right now is the time. We've got to do an NFT project. We got to bring it to the photo community and start this thing. And unlike most photographers that are looking at NFTs for an extra source of income for their work, which is incredible, which we need to, anybody watching this that has an archive, like, needs to start to research NFTs and getting their work up into the blockchain and starting to sell, because we've never before had the chance for a royalty on sales over the course of a lifetime, like attaching your work and creating an NFT will do, which it can do now, which is an insane way to create residual income for yourself. So I think it's a powerful thing for the photo community. But I look at my work and I'm like, I photograph all people, and I didn't get model releases for quite some time, and I wouldn't want to sell an NFT to somebody of somebody's face, like to somebody else, unless that person was okay with it, and maybe somebody would buy if they were a celebrity. So now I'm just thinking about future work on what I could produce as an NFT. But a lot of you probably have a landscape that looks awesome that you like, a fine art piece that's insane that you really like, that you think it could be worth a lot. Maybe you shot something on film way back when, and you can dig that sucker up, and somebody's going to like to own that piece of art. And I think NFTs are a huge thing for us that we won't even realize what it is yet. But for me at the time, Vadim came to me, he said, let's do the first collectible for the photo industry. He's like, I'll get an artist. So he got an artist, and he said, I'm going to get an artist to give me some samples and show them to you. And he showed me this little guy with a camera on his head for a head. And I was like, that thing is the coolest. So I think the artwork itself was so cool, and the artist is amazing. So then we were like, well, okay, we've got the artist, we've got something cool that's hot that people will resonate with in terms of a collectible. What are we going to call it? And I was like, I don't know. If you look at all these names of these NFT things, they're all crazy and strange and interesting and whatever. And I was like, well, I mean, I yell shebang all the time. Let's just call them Shabangrs. And I was like, get rid of the E because it's shorter and cooler without the E. So it's Shabangrs without the E at the end. And we did the drop in October, I believe now, selling them, and they're out there. And we're building a metaverse around them. And I just got off, I have a conference call tomorrow with a huge sponsor. Photo industry people are jumping on board and behind me in this thing, which has been amazing. We're building Shabangersville, which is a metaverse based on Shabangrs. Your entry into Shabangersville is with a Shabanger. You'll get a plot of land in there along with a Shabanger. I mean, it's crazy. So it's all community driven. It's based off the collectible. The collectibles have utility. So for instance, I have to work on that today. That reminds me. One of the NFTs, like somebody got a flex kit. My new studio kit from Westcott is a $5,500 item. We attached it randomly to one of the Shabangers. Somebody bought that Shabanger. Who was in the Ukraine, and was a non-photographer actually, and then sold it on OpenSea. If this is all different information for you, you can go check this stuff out later. OpenSea's a marketplace for NFTs that you should check out. You should also check out Foundation, which is one that's for artists and photographers like us. But sold it on OpenSea with the utility attached to somebody in Vancouver. And now I am shipping a studio flex kit to the photographer in Vancouver who's utilizing the utility that was attached to the Shabanger. We've also attached my workshops. Some people have gotten a lifetime membership on the headshot crew. Somebody's got a whole day with me where I'll fly to them and hang out with them for a day and coach them. Yeah. There's all this stuff going on. It's really interesting. And with the metaverse coming, we're building our own. We've got a token that is going to be the currency within Shabangersville called, of course, a Shabuk. And all of it's happening right now. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
So when's that? So this is out now, right? Shabangrs.com is out now.
Yeah, Shabangrs are selling on OpenSea. If you go to OpenSea.com, I think, or is it OpenSea.io?
Yeah, let's see. It is OpenSea. You have the link here. It is OpenSea.io. Yes, OpenSea.io.
OpenSea.io, and then
Yep.
search for Shabangers. Now, be careful. There's a lot of imposters out there. Make sure it looks like this. There's 1.3 thousand items, which is what we have, 625 owners, and there's the floor price 0.08 of an ETH right now, and you can go in and purchase one with Ethereum, and that's where we're selling them right now. We do have 2,500 of them that we've made, but we're keeping the 1,200 on the sidelines for now for when we reopen Shabangrs.com. We're trying to build out the metaverse. We're working on sponsorships. We have big announcements in terms of sponsors and what we're doing over there very soon. And since we're building our own metaverse and our own token, it takes a little bit of time. So we're thinking in the next couple months, we'll be seeing this coming out. We'll be making announcements. So the best way to find out about everything is to go to Shabangrs.com and search our Discord, or go to Peter underscore Hurley on Instagram, and you can check my link tree. My link in my bio has everything that's going on with me. So that's probably the best place to go.
Love it. Love it. So just real quick, when you say you're building a metaverse, what does that mean? You're building a community that people will be able to interact with in virtual reality, or is it some kind of community plus? Define metaverse as you see it.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that coincide with Facebook changing their name to Meta. So right now, everybody's looking. I mean, gamers are used to it, and people who have used an Oculus before and been in virtual reality scenarios understand it. I've gone to one virtual reality like gaming place in New York City with my kids for their birthday, and that's it. I've never done this. So, and now I'm creating a metaverse. So a metaverse is basically, we're going to start with probably a browser based. I mean, the goal is for me to, let's say I'm a Shabanger owner, which I am. I bought one of my own actually. And I go into this metaverse, and my avatar is my Shabanger. And I'm communicating with other photographers that are standing in front of me in their Shabanger with their camera on their head.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a mall type structure where you walk into. We were joking before that we'll have a bar. I was like, can you get lit up at the bar and like have a Shabanger like kind of woozy, like like somebody passed out on the floor, like, can you sell drinks in there? I don't know. But basically we're going to have little storefronts for photo industry related things, and people are actually going to go into these stores and be able to peruse items from that manufacturer. Or nice. I've approached B&H. B&H is one of my sponsors. I want them to come into my metaverse, and I want somebody to walk into the B&H store and be able to buy a product in the metaverse while they're in the store in their Shabanger, and have that item shipped and show up in the physical world at their home. So these types of things is what we're working on. Not to mention that there'll be a virtual classroom where I can teach my workshops from, or anybody for that matter, that I could, if I have a classroom in the metaverse in Shabangersville, we would be able to schedule classes there for different speakers that could come in, that I could be teaching a full-on class to the metaverse or the citizens of Shabangersville in front of me right now from my computer, from a WeWork or wherever I am.
Wherever, yeah. That's crazy, man. Congratulations. You're always crushing it, always shebanging and doing all that stuff. So you're in Tampa right now, hanging out. Like, what's next for Peter Hurley in 2022?
Well, I mean, I'm here for a couple of reasons. What I've tried to do is, I've been very fortunate that I was talking about this to my headshot crew. I do on Mondays at 10 a.m. I do a thing called All Business, and it's a 45-minute Zoom where I just want to fire everybody up for the week. And I said, it's really important. There's two things that I'm really concentrating on, or trying to concentrate on. One is health. I think health is a huge thing. I don't think you're going to pick up your camera and have good energy with your subject if you're not a healthy individual. Obviously, we want to get our immune systems as strongly as possible with everything that's running around these days. And also, one of the things that I think is important is having a hobby that gets you active and out there. So when I look at things that I want to do, they're all pretty much structured around the sport of sailing. I trained for 2 Olympics in sailing when I was younger. I still sail. And multiple sources of income. So, basically a hobby that keeps you healthy. Obviously, your diet and the amount of sleep you get is very important. And then it's going to give me the ability to shoot when I'm shooting, but I'm also working on other sources of income. So while I'm down here, I'm actually shooting headshots for there's a startup convention. So I'm shooting at the convention. I'm also meeting with my co-founder of Shabangrs, Vadim, and I had a regatta this weekend that I just sailed 2 days and I won. So
nice.
I have kind of structured my life with these things that really appeal to me, and I figured if I'm the only one who can structure my life, so I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it, and I've been fortunate enough to do that.
That's right. That's good, man. You're always an inspiration. At some point within the next year, hopefully, if the chains come off the world, we'll be able to hook up in New York and have a drink or something. So we'll see.
For sure.
Yeah,
and
no,
if I
absolutely.
get out there, I'll let you know.
Please do. If you're anywhere in Northern California, whatever, just let me know when you're out here. All right, Peter, we'll leave it right there. Have a great rest of your week. And folks that are listening and or watching this, make sure you head over to headshotcrew.com and Shabangrs, Shabangrs, no E.com. And I'll put the links in the show notes and all that stuff so people can get to it easily. Peter Hurley, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure. This is TWiP. This episode was sponsored by MPB, the world's largest online platform for used photo and video kit. Visit mpb.com.